Welcome back to Big Country Politics on KTAB.
Well, hello and welcome to this week's Sunday Conversation here on Big Country Politics. I'm Manny Diaz. This week our special guest is Blair Schroeder. He is a candidate unopposed for Abilene ISD School Board, place 3. Blair, thanks so much for making time for us today.
Hey, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it and look forward to the conversation.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, you are Abilene born and raised, the 325,
That's
the
right.
lean.
That's right.
How our generation would call it.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I'm born and raised here in Abilene, and so I remember walking to school, going to Bonham Elementary, and then going to the landmark that's Lincoln, and graduating from Grand Ole Abilene High. So this is home to me, even though as I graduated from high school, I went on to college in Nashville and then went on and spent some time in Cincinnati where my wife is from. But we knew that Abilene's home. And so ultimately coming back here where my parents are and my sisters and their kids, they make people a little different out here in West Texas. Mm-hmm. And so we wanted that environment for our family, and the value system that we hold dear is something that we find it charming, and we find it something that we wanted to pass along to our generation that we're raising at home.
That's neat. That's a good way to put it. Before we get into your decision to run for school board, tell us about, you have a unique tie to District 19 U.S. Congressman Jody Arrington.
I do.
Tell us about that and certainly your time spent with him.
Sure. So service has really always been kind of a hallmark of what I've done, going all the way back to high school, and so I've always had an interest in that. Working when I was in Cincinnati, I was involved in politics to some extent, in government, public affairs, and relationships there. And so when I moved back to Abilene, one of the relationships that I wanted to pick up was Congressman Arrington. Mm-hmm. And so recognizing a mutual history and love for all things food, fuel, and fiber in West Texas, we connected. And I was fortunate enough to be his district director and then also help run some of his political work. And through that, it was a great chance to reconnect with my hometown, right? There's so many people. The stories in West Texas are vast and great, the people, the faith, the heritage. And so all those values aligned with mine. And so I was excited to be a part of his team. And even now while I'm at ACU as the Chief Strategy Officer, Jody is somebody who is a dear friend of mine. And I know that I can reach out to him anytime, and we still talk a fair amount. So good partnership there.
Food, fuel, and fiber. I feel like Jody's in this seat right now. So.
That's right. Hey, don't forget freedom. You got to have the freedom piece for our friends out at DICE.
There we go. Yeah. Okay. Education is a very tough profession to be a part of these days. Not a lot of people are lining up to enter the profession as there once was.
That's right.
Tell me, why are you running for this position?
So a couple of reasons. First and foremost, I think if we look back at one of the lessons learned from 2020 is that every elected office matters. We can't afford to forfeit any single seat because every office has an opportunity to impact our communities in a way that I think up until that point we had kind of taken for granted. For me, school board is something that's near and dear to my heart. Not only am I a product of Abilene schools, so when we moved back to Texas and we moved back to Abilene, I said I want to move specifically. I told every real estate agent, put me in AISD, that's where I want to raise my kids. So I have 4 kids. Currently, if you look at the makeup of the school board, I appreciate and respect all of them. But none of them have currently any students in their home that are students at AISD. For me, I have 4. I've got a junior in high school, a freshman in high school, as well as a 6th grader in middle school, and then a 4th grader in elementary school. So these are kitchen table issues for me. I'll even take it a step further. My wife, you mentioned about not a lot of folks are going into education. Mm-hmm. When we moved back here, my wife started as a teacher's aide. And she found an opportunity and felt like this was a calling for her. And so she's now gone through the certification process, and she's a special education teacher. Mm-hmm. So these aren't just, I'm not hearing about it just as a parent, but I'm also hearing about it as a spouse of a teacher. And so these are issues that I think are near and dear. And admittedly, as I look at AISD, I think there's a lot of tremendous opportunity. But I think there's also opportunities for us to make some vast improvements in some areas that I think are important to parents. And so that's part of the voice that I hope to lend to the conversation.
I imagine, as you're running, before probably running for this position, you're an ambassador of AISD, wanting more people to move into the district. But, sure. Certainly, and this is kind of what we hear from the media. It's like when people are moving into Abilene, well, they bring up Abilene Wiley or perhaps Jim Ned or Clyde.
Sure.
And maybe Abilene ISD isn't as high on the list as it once was. What's your pitch to people that when you have to have that conversation?
We do, and part of my role at ACU is we're always trying to attract talent to Abilene. And some of my work that I've done in the past with economic development, education and schools matter. You know, it's not just the slogan that matters to people who have kids in the school district, but it isn't a local economic issue. And this is the district that bears our name. And yes, there's some good school districts around us. We have some that are actually even advertising within Abilene to try to peel off some of our students. So we have to do a better job telling our story. But at the same time, I think it's incredibly important for us as a community to rally behind our education team and not just simply let it drift. We have to do a better job of boosting teacher morale, improving test scores for our students, and leaning into the things that matter. And I think making sure that our school system doesn't go the way of the culture wars, as so many people have tried to lean in and leverage classrooms for that type of education, is not what we're about here in West Texas.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, coming up after the break, more with Blair Schroeder, candidate for Abilene ISD School Board Place 3. We're discussing the district's low academic performance and what needs to be done to get the district back up to speed, plus his thoughts on one of the state's hottest topics regarding education. That and more right here in Big Country Politics.
Welcome back to Big Country Politics on KTAB.
Well, welcome back to Big Country Politics. This is our Sunday conversation. This week, our special guest is Blair Schroeder. He is a candidate for Abilene ISD School Board Place 3. Blair, we were talking a little about, your introduction. You are an Abilene guy through and through. But I imagine, since you've come back, you've heard a lot about what's kind of going on here within AISD. Certainly, it's regarding its low academic performance.
Sure.
So let's kind of touch on that. What would you say is the root of low academic performance at AISD? And as an elected member of the school board, how do you intend to help restore confidence in our school system here in Abilene? Sure.
I think one of the things that we have to immediately do to help restore confidence is we have to do a better job of telling our story. We have more than just a test rating of a C that does not define us. It does not define the work that the teachers do. It does not define the work of our students. There was a former president who used to have the expression, the soft bigotry of low expectations. And that's something that we, as a West Texas community, don't need to fall subject to. I think it's okay for us to aspire to want more and to try to achieve more. But we can't look for our friends in Austin to try to salvage us. And so one of the things I think part of what a school board member should do is to be able to lean into that, provide support and encouragement where we can, help support. In this case, we're going to have a new superintendent coming into the next calendar year. And I think it's important that we help acclimate them to help make sure that we do all the things necessary to improve teacher morale and at the same point in time lean into rigorous academic standards to meet the needs of our students and have testing that actually is fair and equitable with respect to measuring the whole child in terms of the experiences that they have and not just kidding for a few.
Sure. Abilene ISD is one of 22 districts in Texas that is part of the System of Great Schools program to understand the issues of performance and help improve the district. From the outside looking in, what do you know about this program, and is the district on the right track with it?
Well, first of all, I applaud the effort to lean into that, because simply whenever you recognize that there's a problem, that's not enough just to recognize that you have to have a strategy toward working toward a successful outcome. So I do think that this is a step in the right direction. One of the things that I know from the program is looking at how are we leaning into some of the STEM courses, right? There's a lot of different things that are redefining what education is, but there's a beauty in the basics, if you will. And that's one of the fundamental building blocks that I think we have to have with a project like this. So it's the North Star program as well, part of that. And so I think that this is a strong first step. But again, there's going to be other steps that need to happen.
Yeah. School vouchers has become a major political talking point in Texas. Abilene shared its opinion of it with the re-election of District 71 House Representative Stan Lambert. How closely are you watching when it comes to the future of school vouchers, and if passed, what would something like that do for Abilene ISD?
Good question, Manny. So one of the things that, to me, having watched the school voucher conversation play out over an extended number of years, whether it's been in Texas or have seen it in other states, when we lived in Ohio, there was an iteration of that, if you will. So I've seen it work really well, but I also know that in some instances, it's not a zero-sum game, and it can hurt communities that are more rural or have unique needs with respect to some of the student population. And so I think we need to be paying close attention to what's happening in Austin. And that's one of the things, as a member of the school board, I hope to be a part of, is making sure that we don't just take what Austin gives us, while we have to obviously abide by their policies and the politics that come out of it. But we need to also leverage our influence and be able to leverage our relationships in a meaningful way to help drive an outcome that's good for Abilene. And so for me, watching this, I think a school district, it's not enough just to have an opinion, Manny, but we also have to know how to navigate within whatever Austin sends us. So from a voucher program, if you will, I would suggest that there's going to be a financial implication regardless of whatever the governor gets through the legislature. And so we have to know how to prioritize, we have to know how to steward our funds, and we have to make sure that we have a good understanding of what our income is, to where we can make sure we prioritize and invest accordingly.
Yeah. Well, you are running unopposed for this position, which means there's nobody out there but you running for place 3.
That's right.
Tell me, what's your message to parents, voters, those who live in AISD as you prepare to take this position? You have a camera, you have the floor, you have the microphone there.
Great, thank you. I'm one of you. I was raised in Abilene. I'm a proud product of Abilene ISD, and I'm a parent. And that's a voice that has been missing on the school board for quite some time. And I'm eager to be able to represent everyone who has a stake in the education process for our kids. We can't sit back and idly let education run adrift. We have to lean into the things that matter. And I would submit to you that nothing matters more than the education, because it is the bedrock for a community in terms of how we posture our kids for success. It helps develop our workforce. It helps set us our priority and our agenda. Our students deserve the best. Our teachers deserve the best, and that's what I intend to give them.
Yeah. Well, Blair, I appreciate your time. It's something to see. You know, I think we're both in the same age group.
Sure.
The mid to late 30s, early 40s. So it's nice to see someone from this particular generation doing some things here in the community. So best of luck to you. Thank you for joining.
Hey, appreciate it. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your work. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, for Blair Schroeder, candidate for Abilene ISD School Board Place 3, I'm Manny Diaz. This has been another Sunday Conversation right here on Big Country Politics. We'll see you next time. God bless.